So I am incredibly grateful to be able to introduce our guest today, James Sebastiano. He's a marketing expert and conscious entrepreneur who is passionate about ethical and environmentally sustainable business. He's a co-founder of Alchemy, a world-renowned vegan restaurant in Bali, and the creator of the documentary film Chasing the Present, where he got to interview a lot of our people we look up to, like Russell Brand, Trevor Hall, Rupert Spira. And I'm just so pumped to have you here today, man. So if you're down to just tell us a little bit about your journey and yourself, thank you for being here.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much, Kyle. And thanks so much, everybody, for who's here, for joining. Seems like a really beautiful thing that you guys have going on, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. Yeah, I mean, I've been working on this documentary, Chasing the Present, for the last 5 years or so. And it kind of, in a nutshell, it's a journey about my own personal anxiety. I was, struggling with anxiety for most of my life, and I wanted to understand how to get to the root of that. So a buddy of mine and I kind of decided, about 5 years ago, hey, let's figure this out. Let's go on a trip and try to see if we can understand where, anxiety comes from and what it's all about. So we did, and we took off, and, we heard that everybody really got a lot of benefits from doing yoga. So we went to India and did the yoga teacher training. And then we went to Nepal and studied meditation with a lot of nuns and monks and shamans. And then we went to Peru and lived in the Amazon jungle for over a month doing ayahuasca with the local people there. And we did a road trip all across the States and went all over Europe, pretty much went over most of the world, and really tried to see what different indigenous cultures and what different people, that we, like you said, some of these people that we look up to, what they say, how they were able to fix it. And it was a remarkable journey, and I'm super grateful to have had the opportunity to be able to go out and to do that kind of stuff, to really try to understand my suffering. Before I made the film, I would have panic attacks. I guess I'm 36 years old now, and from the ages of 15 to 33, say, I would have panic attacks on a weekly or even monthly basis. And through the things I've learned in the film, I haven't had one in over 3 years now, which I'm super grateful and stoked about. So there was something there, that we learned, and it's, for me, what it helped me. I'm not the type of guy that says, like, this is the answer, everybody has to do this, I promise you're gonna have no more anxiety. It's everybody's very unique individual things, but I did find some kind of common threads throughout all the cultures and all the different people that we spoke to, that I think do ring true for everybody.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the common threads that they all shared?
For sure. I mean, I think, one of the main ones that I've kept hearing over and over again from everybody was the importance of spending time in nature. And I think it's something that we hear, but how often do we really do it? How often do we actually, like, leave our phone at the house or log offline or whatever, and actually just go to the forest or go to the beach or go somewhere where we can kind of be alone and be silent and be truly connected with nature. For me, I have a lot of businesses. Before I started the film, I was involved in like over 36 projects. I actually made a list of all the different businesses that I was running and involved in, and had 500 employees. I was running 36 different businesses. It's like, okay, this is pretty, this is definitely not lightening my stress, I'm for sure. So when we get caught up in that, and just we're in this daily grind every day, just waking up as soon as we get up, checking our Instagram, checking our phones, going into our emails, bam, 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 bam. More often than not, it's negative stuff that's attacking us. And when we get the opportunity to go out and to spend time in nature and to really just connect with that exists, is it's really beautiful, and it can be super calming and super medicinal. The other thing that we heard from everyone was the importance of silence, the power of silence, because and it goes along with being in nature and being silent in nature and all this kind of stuff. It just, when we have the opportunity to just sit in silence, away from all of these distractions, away from all the constant bombardment that we get from the world, from our friends, from our family, from our work, from all these different sources, something happens. And it's not necessarily an easy thing. I mean, it's nothing rocket science, right? Like, I'm sure everybody's heard, like, yeah, meditation, silence, whatever. And it sounds easy, right? Just be in silence. But for some reason, when you go to jail and you're a convicted murderer and you're in jail with other murderers, the worst penalty they can give you is to put you in a room alone by yourself in silence. So obviously it can be a difficult thing, especially for people like me, who have super hyperactive minds and are kind of like super Aries and always fiery, and just, my mind's going all the time. So for me at the beginning, to just be sitting still in silence was a big challenge, but there's something beautiful on the other side of that. And I think those were really the two main things that I found kind of cross-culturally relevant for all the different people we've spoken to, and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you. That was fascinating. And along the lines of getting out in nature, um, the food choices, that you've kind of changed your life to be in alignment with are like environmentally conscious. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey? Because I saw your certifications, alchemy, in Bali, like the menu there is top notch as far as like healthy food. So how did you go from, where you were to where you are now?
Well, let's see, when I was, let's say about 21, I had a cocaine overdose. I was in university, and I nearly died. And this is the second time in my life. The first time wasn't from cocaine, it was from a wasp. When I was 15, I got stung by a wasp, and I had no idea that I was allergic. And I had to be rushed to the emergency room. I was unconscious, and they stabbed me with a adrenaline needle, Pulp Fiction style, and not in the heart, but they gave me the same stuff, and I jumped out of the hospital bed and woke up, and that was a main trigger for my anxiety. And fast forward 6 or 7 years later, cocaine overdose, and I was just kind of doing the normal college thing, partying all the time, and just realized somehow I was really lucky, and I was on the wrong path. So I packed up my stuff. I was 22, 23 years old then, and I moved to Amsterdam by myself. And I guess, if someone were to call me now and said, hey, I just had a cocaine overdose and I'm not really sure where my life is headed, I probably wouldn't tell them like, hey, just move to Amsterdam. It's not the it's not the place that you would recommend. But for me, I had went there once at another point in my life, and it felt different. It felt more open, more liberal, and more, I don't know, it just felt really different than what I was used to growing up in Florida. So I went there, and I was working in bars, and I was really struggling. I was literally walking around on the streets at a certain point looking for a couple euros so I could get a Burger King meal, and sleeping on couches and going and staying in hostels and running out of hostels without paying after a week, and, all this kind of stuff, just really, not able to figure it out. Then I met a girl, and that's always when the plot twist happens, right? At some point. I met a girl, and luckily she was amazing, and she was a vegetarian, and she gave me a book, and it was called Skinny Bastard. And she didn't tell me I was fat, but I guess she was trying to get me that message, subconsciously. So she gave me this book called Skinny Bastard, and I read it, and at the end of the book, it had a challenge to see if you could be a vegetarian for 30 days. And I thought, like, I think I can do anything for 30 days. Let's see if I can do it. So I just did it, and it lasted for like 12 years, the 30-day challenge. And for me, and I'm not like the type of guy who goes out and wears this like t-shirt with a cow being murdered on it and stuff like that and says like everybody needs to just be a vegetarian or whatever, because there's many different paths to awareness. And I think that's the important thing, is this, how do we build awareness? And for me, the first thing that I was doing in my life where I started to become aware was just simply being aware of what I was putting in my body. And when I started to become aware of the food that I was eating, other things started to automatically change. Like, it didn't make sense for me to go out and get wasted 5 nights a week anymore while I was like waking up and making a green juice. Like, it just was like, wait a second. There was a little period in there where it was still like strange, but it quickly changed, and I started to be like, wow, this is different. I shouldn't do this. I was literally working in bars in Amsterdam and bringing 1.5 liters of green juice with me into the bar at night while I was working. And everybody around me was just completely hammered. And I'm just there like drinking this green juice. And it started to feel weird. Like, what's happening? Why am I doing this? And so that I don't know, it just got super weird. I got really sensitive and I couldn't do it anymore. So I had went to Bali for like a juice cleanse and like a little chef training certificate program with my girlfriend. And when we got there, we were just like, wow, this place is amazing. The nature's beautiful and there's so much opportunity. I remember growing up in the States, and just whenever I had an idea of what I wanted to do with my life, I would Google it, and like 45 million other people had already done it, and it was like done really well. And I was just like, wow, how am I going to make it in this kind of a climate? But in Indonesia, like I had these ideas for businesses and they didn't exist yet. So I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, and there was definitely the people there. So I started out by just opening a small juice bar, and it was called Alchemy. And I just literally sat behind the counter every day and I was just making juices. And from the day we opened, it was super busy, and we had like 300 people show up on opening day to an event, and then just kind of grew and grew and grew and grew. And through that business, I met so many people, and people would come in and say, hey, James, do you want to do this? And I would say, yes. Do you want to do this? Yes, 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 yes. Fast forward, 5 or 6 years. And then I was at that point doing 36 businesses and still suffering with anxiety and having money and having good relationship and not understanding, like, wait a second, I grew up in America thinking that if I was able to achieve the American dream, then I would be happy. And I kind of did. And had all the money I could want. I was doing everything, businesses, good friends, but I was still having these panic attacks. And that's where the journey started of making the film, because I just didn't get it.
Wow. Yeah, that's mind blowing. You talk about a little bit about the American dream. And so we have a really spiritual group here. And I would say one of like the spiritual dreams that a lot of us might have would be to like link up with Hay House somehow. How did that unfold in your life? Because that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, we did a summit with Hay House as a pre-launch to the film. I have a friend, he made the documentary Heal. He's also on our team. I don't know if you guys saw Heal, but it was a really good documentary on Netflix, and his name is Adam Schomer, and he joined the team and helped us get the film out there. And they did some stuff with Hay House, and basically when we made the film, we had like 300 hours of footage, amazing stuff. And a film is only 90 minutes. So I was like, how can we get the rest of this information out there? I don't want to just like toss this stuff away. There's some really valuable stuff here. So we got in touch with Hay House and said, hey, are you open to doing a summit with us? Here's all the stuff we have and blah, blah, blah. And we're also going to get Ed Sheeran involved, and I emailed Ed, and he's really into mental health and stuff like that. So he said, I don't know, we got lucky. He said, yeah, man, come to my house. Love to spend the day with you and do an interview and stuff like that. So I flew to England and went out and hung with Ed Sheeran and talked about mental health and how he struggled with social anxiety, and Trevor Hall, and all these people. There was like 28 different people that we filmed with and did a summit, and it was really it turned out really well. Not as well as we hoped for, because it was like, also with the film, I had just hired a whole team, and we were booked in 300 theaters around the world and all this kind of stuff. And I hired a guy, and literally 2 weeks after I had my team together, the pandemic hit, and all the movie theaters got closed. And then every single business went on the internet. Everybody was just fully online, and then the internet landscape and competition just got really, really, really thick and really, really, really difficult. So we had to kind of alter our plans and our strategies and kind of just go with the flow of everything. But yeah, we were super grateful to be able to pull that summit off with Hay House.
I think it's still spreading its roots, man. I watched all the interviews and they really touched me. So I hope that everyone does get a chance to find that, that video. And I think it will, man. I think it's still spreading its way across the world. So.
Well, the summit's done. It was only online. It was only available for a little while. It's not available anymore, but the documentary's still out, and you can rent that all over iTunes and Vimeo and all the different platforms.
Awesome. So now I'm going to open it up to our collective, see if anyone has any questions for you. I'm sure they do. Who wants to go first? Yeah. Joe? You got one more?
James, my friend, I'm like blown away, honestly, by your ability to do, because I suffered from the exact same thing, social anxiety, panic attacks, the whole thing. And it was crippling, like, it really was. And to watch how you were able to just kind of like fight through it and still do all the 35 businesses. Like, I think that is insanely amazing, because it keeps you, for me, it's like, that's the block that I had. Like, I couldn't step into those things because the anxiety was so rough. How did you manage yourself through all that stuff? Like, how did you not like self-sabotage during interpersonal relationships, having conversations? Like, were you having panic attacks talking to people that were like business relationships? Because those are things I experienced, and it actually didn't allow me to attain the opportunities, because I was a disaster while I was talking to the people that were supposed to be, you know, I was connecting with or networking with. How did you manage that, man?
I didn't really have social anxiety. I was a really social person, actually. But
Okay.
I think in general, I just numbed myself. You know,
Mm.
I didn't allow myself to feel it as much as it needed to be felt. And then all of a sudden I would be driving down the highway and just, you know, not be able to talk. I would feel like my chest was getting numb. My face was getting numb. I was getting all tingly, you know, kind of like
Yeah.
that feeling when you do a really intense breath work. You know, I was feeling like that on a regular basis without the breath work. And
Whoa.
just like, okay, you know, what's going on? It got to the point where I couldn't even drive. You know, I love driving. I'm driving now. I'm all good. I just drove. You know, I've driven. I got a van, and I've been driving all over the country. I've done like 7,000 miles in the last month. So I'm
Holy
someone
shit.
who really likes to cruise. You know, but it would get to the point where I would be driving on the highway and I couldn't drive anymore. And you
Mm.
know, that's where meditation really came in for me as such an incredible tool, because you know, in a meditation practice, we learn how to sit there and just watch our thoughts as they come up and do our best to not participate in them. and
Mm.
and and that for me is such a game changing understanding, because what would happen is I would feel these sensations in my body, and then as soon as I would start to feel these sensations in my body, my mind would turn on and say, oh my God, what's happening? What's going
Yep.
on? And then my heart starts pounding and beating fast. Oh my God, am I going to die? What's happening? And then that mind would just turn my physical symptoms into panic. And then I would be
Mm-hmm.
in a full blown panic attack on the side of the road, like not being able to breathe, trying to breathe out of a bag, just kind of thinking I was going to die. And being able to do that, you know, the last time I was about to have it, I was in the car and came up again. And then it, you know, I just watched it come up, you know, and instead of participating in it and allowing it to go to the next level, I just watched my feelings come up in my body. It's like,
Mm.
it's okay. You know, I just felt it. And I think for me, you know, overcoming anxiety, at least overcoming panic attacks, was really about allowing myself to feel the things that needed to be felt,
Mm. It's
allowing myself
amazing,
to feel.
man. How did you not like that? Something came up when you said that, because like attaching to them, like when the moments come up and like you have it and it's like just allowing them to float by. I talk to a lot of people that, and maybe even myself. Yeah, I have to be honest with myself. There's still moments, even, and I've been meditating for years, where it comes up and like it's like an addiction. It's like I gravitate toward it, even if like I know it's not a good thing to do. You know, it's like I'm feeling like drawn towards expounding on that thought, because it produces that, you know, that wave of like oh shits that just keep going in the oh shit panel. It's how, I guess my question is like did you have a specific technique that would come up if there was something that did really kind of try to grab your attention and wanted to pull you down the rabbit hole even amidst your meditation? Was there anything that you would do to like keep yourself staying in the present moment and allowing the flow of thoughts to drive by instead of grabbing onto the back of it?
Well, there's so many different techniques for that. Really, for me, I use the breath. You know, I focus on the breath and just realize that, you know, just a simple thing is, you know, and you guys all know this, I'm sure, but you know,
Mm.
if you inhale for, you know, 2 seconds and you exhale for 4 seconds, as long as the exhale is longer than the inhale, you calm yourself down completely. You slow down your nervous system and you get calm. So if you breathe in for 4 seconds and exhale for 8 seconds, you're just resetting your nervous system and becoming more calm. So just using the breath as an anchor, or you can use sounds as an anchor. But I think, you know, those are all very helpful techniques. But you guys, you know, you mentioned Rupert Spira, Kyle, at the beginning of this conversation. I think there was a moment in making Chasing the Present that really changed my life. And that moment was this understanding, you know, and it's so cliche. It's like this thing, you know, even in Zoolander, you know, he's looking in a puddle and he's like, who am I? You know, that moment in Zoolander. And it's like, okay, even there, they're talking about it. So it's like, okay, but to really understand that and to really get into that idea of who am I really, ultimately, and starting out with just this, you know, knowing that I'm not my thoughts, you know, I'm the awareness behind the thoughts. So when the thoughts come up, I think it's that disidentification that we have with the mind, that we think that this is just what we are, you know. Of course, I'm James, I'm this body, these thoughts in my head are, it's all James, right? It's just, that's what it is. And as long as we're identified with this material thing, we're going to be suffering in a sense, because we're not identifying with what we truly are. We're identifying with this other thing. So when the thoughts come up, just understanding, like, the thoughts are there, just like the clouds are there in the sky, but the sky is not the clouds. You know, the clouds are there and they pass away. And thoughts pass away too. Sensations pass away, feelings pass away, emotions pass away. Doesn't mean we have to push them away and suppress them, because that's another problem that we can get into. Rather, just allowing them to being there and just accepting them as they are in that moment, and just feeling them. I mean, for me, anxiety is a clear alarm, like a huge alarm system that I need to feel something. And I think if we're still experiencing it, no matter how much practice we're doing or whatever, it's just a sign that there's still something there that is left unfelt that we need to feel.
Dude, that is awesome. You just opened my mind to a lot of stuff, so thank you very much for that.
No, it's just my experience, you know.
I love it, man. I'm very grateful for you, bro. Thank you so much for diving into that with me, man. Because many years of meditation, and there's still learning to be done for me. You know, especially when I just made a major transition in life, moving into a new place, and I think as you do that, like, new gates open in the brain, and some new things have come up that I thought were checked off, and now that they've come up, it's like hearing what you just said right there is realizing that these thoughts are just thoughts, and sometimes I just need the reminder. And so thank you. I really appreciate that, James. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, man, for sure. You know, and something else I kind of felt, you know, all the different religions speak about it in the same way. You know, the Bible says to pray without ceasing, for example. And for me, prayer and meditation are synonymous. So if we look at that in the way that I would understand, you know, what Jesus would say or whatever, it's to meditate without stopping. It's not about meditating just for 10 minutes every morning, or 1 hour every morning, or 2 minutes every morning. It's about, how do we take that meditation practice into our daily life? How do we use that meditation when we're at dinner with 10 friends and everybody's on their phone, you know, posting on Instagram? Is that a meditation? Are we using our life as a meditation in that moment? Or when we're with our kids or our parents or our, you know, our close loved ones or anybody, and someone's talking, but we're just completely in a different place. We're just completely taken over by our thoughts, and we're thinking about, oh man, forgot to take the clothes out of the wash, or what am I going to do for dinner? You know, we're always somewhere else other than this moment. And I think the more time that we spend in this moment, and the more time we can meditate without stopping, so to speak, you know, the more easier everything gets, you know. And it's very hard. It's very hard to do. And I'm not like some kind of enlightened saint or something like that. I'm also sitting at the table on Instagram sometimes, or my dad's talking to me, I'm just like, oh God, you know what I mean? Like, it happens. You know, no one's perfect, but using every moment as an opportunity to connect with what we truly are, to connect with God, to connect with awareness, consciousness, whatever words you want to use, but using every moment as an opportunity to connect deeper with that place is, in my opinion, the only reason why we're here.
Dude, that was, yes, 100%. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I had a question come in via message, which is interesting, because we've had a lot of people come on the Quantum Healing Collective without knowing any of that. Like, I know that you know what's on their resume, but somehow about 50% of the people that come on the Quantum Healing Collective, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, say that they were awakened by plant medicine. So my buddy sent me a message, hey, my mic isn't working, but I'm curious about his experience with ayahuasca and how that helped him through his healing journey and plant medicine in general.
Well, first of all, I would say, I don't know how many of you guys, you know, play around with psilocybin or ayahuasca or LSD or whatever. I think they can be very, very valuable teachers for sure. but I would just start as a precursor, like this stuff is medicine. I don't use these kind of things as a recreational thing where it's like, hey, yeah, I got a free weekend, let's go take ayahuasca with friends, yahoo. I don't view it as that. I view it as and if you do it, there's no judgment, but for me it's a medicine, and it's a very, very powerful thing. I did ayahuasca 5 times in the course of 12 days, and 3.5 of those nights were the most difficult, challenging, horrible nights I've ever experienced in my life. And on the 4th night, finally, I was able to kind of understand what was happening and have like the best night that I've ever had in my life. After 3 of those nights where you're promising God that you'll never do it again. Have you guys ever had those experiences? Like, please get me out of the situation. I'll never do it again. I had 3 of those, and I'm like, man, I don't know on the 3rd one if God's going to listen to me anymore, if I just keep lying and tell him I'll never do it again. But but on the 4th night, I drank the medicine and it just came on. It was just so powerful and so strong. In Peru, you drink it in the dark with 10 other people, and you just lay on your back, and there's no lights and there's nothing, and you just deal with your stuff. So I drank it, and halfway through, found myself locked in the bathroom, just like looking at this little candle, really, really like on a full trip. It was really dark, really scary, and I had this thought pop up in my head, and just like, you're trying to be in control. You're in the jungle in Peru drinking one of the strongest medicines on the planet, and you're trying to control this thing which can't be controlled. And I had that thought, which was just like a miracle that I did have that thought in itself. And I went back in the room where everybody else was, and I laid down on the ground, and I let go completely. I just completely surrendered to the medicine, completely surrendered to that moment, and everything shifted, everything changed. The whole experience went from a nightmare to just being in pure bliss, just feeling completely connected to everyone. And I had this kind of death experience where I thought to myself, like, I'm dead, like this is death. And there was no fear, no sadness, no nothing about that understanding. It was instead the most beautiful thing ever. So for me, ayahuasca was an incredible teacher of learning and understanding that I'm really not the one who's in control, and learning how to surrender more to what comes up in the moment and what comes up into life. And look, we're all right now in like this crazy world situation of a global pandemic, which like I've never experienced before in my lifetime, and I guess none of you guys have experienced this before in your lifetime either. It's like an ayahuasca for the planet in a sense. We all thought that we were in control, right? Everybody had vacations and jobs and this and that, and everything was kind of in this little way where we thought we were in control of our own universe. And then this thing came in, just like, bam, like, you're not in control. Stay at home. You have to do like this. You can't do the things that we're used to doing. And some people are really, really struggling and going deeper into depression, and really having a horribly difficult time and losing loved ones and all this other kind of stuff. And some people are using this opportunity to go internal and sit with it and experience the things that the planet is telling us that we need to feel and that we need to experience. So as soon as this thing happened, I was like, well, this is like ayahuasca all over again. I know how to deal with this. Just surrender. Even though 90% of my businesses are temporarily closed because in Indonesia, they stopped allowing tourists to enter March 15th, and they still don't allow it. And I'm trying to figure out how to have 500 people eat, because there the government is not giving anything financially to help the people at all. So I'm definitely in a challenging financial and business situation at the moment, trying to navigate all of that stuff. But I feel okay, because there's not, I can do what I can do, but I can't change the situation. I can't control the virus. I can't control the governments and all that. So you just have to accept what is and surrender to it. And for me, I think that was the biggest lesson and the biggest teaching that I got from taking ayahuasca.
Thank you so much for that. I'm sure some other people have some questions. Just give it a sec. Oh, awesome, Angela.
So thank you so much, James, for coming to chat with us. I really resonate with a lot of your story. I myself am a a long time anxiety sufferer, probably since I was 5 years old. I think they thought I had asthma, but I don't, at this point, I don't think I ever had asthma. I think it was anxiety. I literally think it was a panic attack that sent me to the emergency room at 5. And anyway, so yeah, I do a lot to manage. I've also had problems with with drugs and substances. I definitely have experienced cocaine quite a bit. So I really appreciate you. I find it really inspiring for you to be that vulnerable, to like really share, like come in a group of people that you don't know and like really share that about yourself, like share about, it can still be pretty shameful, like talking about, being, drugs, and especially drugs, mental health, stuff like that, that still, our greater society seems to put a lot of judgment on. It's still taboo, and we're kind of fighting to try to get this understanding. But I guess what was the introduction you called James Kyle when you did the introduction? Something entrepreneur, like conscious entrepreneur, or what
Yeah,
did he?
I think I said he's a marketing expert, conscious entrepreneur who's passionate about ethical and environmentally sustainable business.
Cool. Okay. So I guess what's a word of advice you would have for a starting entrepreneur in the middle of a pandemic? In general, and someone who really wants to go that route, like really not only create sustainability for myself, but also to use the abundance to help others and to help the world and to live sustainably. And because kind of like what you said, when you'd have ideas and you'd Google it on the internet, and I'm very, very familiar with that feeling. And even as a child, I was always very, very big and passionate, and woo, and I had a lot of like people telling me, I mean, you can't really do that, you can't really, nah, you need to go to college, you need to have a steady job. And so I've had a lot. It's taken me a long time to break free from that programming. And it's scary as hell. It's scary, this place I'm in now, like, breaking free from that programming and thinking about, and planning and thinking about, going out on my own and doing this, really in the way that I want to do it. And so I guess, what kind of advice would you have, or words of wisdom for someone starting out, maybe mistakes that you made or, anything like that? I would love to hear whatever you have to say.
Thank you. I'm not one to give advice, but I can just share from my own life experience of what happened to me and what I did. And I think how I kind of started, in a sense, was just by getting really quiet, starting really meditating and just feeling a lot, and starting to feel grateful for what I already had. And I think gratitude is a really great place to start. I remember one time, I don't know, 15 years ago, something like that, 12 years ago, I watched The Secret, and I had this thing up in my room, and I was like in the closet, like meditating in front of this board with like houses and cars and all this kind of stuff on it. And while I was doing that, something happened. Instead of trying to like meditate those things into my life, I had this understanding of like, didn't have much really. I had very, 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 very little, like $500, tons of debt, was living on someone's couch, like, and for me, I had this realization of just like, look at all that I had. How could I be grateful for it? I was just like so grateful for the little tiny thing that I had. And I had this feeling, which I can't explain, but it was like, I felt gratitude on such a level that just like, I felt this like explosion, like this opening up in my life. And it was really crazy. And I always trace back to that exact meditation, that moment where things started to progress and get better in my life. So I think really just starting with being grateful, truly, really grateful for everything that we have in the moment, changed my life, and becoming silent to allow that gratitude space to be able to open up, And then in addition to that, like, you know, I didn't force, I had no idea. Like, I moved to Bali. I didn't go there with the idea to open a juice bar. I didn't do anything. I just went there and I was like, I have to do something. I don't have any money. But let me just meditate for a few days and a few weeks and just feel what happens. And then I had this idea that just completely like, it just like took me over. And I knew in that moment that that's what I had to do. And I did it. It was so overwhelmingly like, that's the direction that you have to go in, you know? So I think if we can really like just allow ourselves the space to be able to feel these things, that we tap into something that's so much greater than ourselves. And, you know, in that space, there's stuff that needs and wants to be manifested. And if we can really be clear and kind of get out of the way of those messages, then what you need to do will just really, I really, 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 truly believe that you'll just feel it and you'll just know without any doubt. And then the haters that you're talking about, which there are so many haters around, you know, telling you can't do this, you can't do that, whatever. None of that will matter, just because you'll feel so connected in yourself that like, this is what I have to do, you know. And I really, 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 truly firmly believe that, because that's what I experienced in my life.
Thank you. I appreciate that. What can you tell me what I just, you know, I'm feeling it in my heart when you talked about Bali, because I'm also I'm a animal activist, and I was planning on being in Thailand volunteering at Elephant Nature Park this December. So yeah, a lot of these countries around the world, they just, you know, because there's no assistance for them, you know. So all the people that worked with elephant, you know, all the people, they're out of jobs, and like nobody's helping them with food, and you know, nobody's helping the animals. Like that just, you know, what, as a person who doesn't have money to really have a lot of money to give, I give what I can, but like, you know, what, God, what can we do? You know, what can we do to help? Like, it's, what's going on in Bali? Have you set up, what are you doing? I just would love to hear some positive things about helping the others.
I mean, you know, it just reminds me of, you know, when I started to make the film, I had this idea of, I just want to help other people. That was the reason why I wanted to make the film. But some red flag went off in my head, and at that point, which made me completely change the whole idea of what the film would be about, which is why I went on a personal journey. Because I realized, like, wait a second, I have yoga studios, I have hotels that are vegan, I have restaurants, I have all businesses actually with the intention of helping other people, but I still have anxiety. So what's going on? Like, I'm doing all this good stuff for the world, but I'm still suffering. And I just totally flipped it around to just being like, I need to help myself first. I need to really be clear. I need to really be getting this anxiety, you know, to a point where I can manage it before I could even think about doing those other kind of things. And I don't know you personally, you may already be at that place, but for me, it was more important to really get to the root of my stuff. And then by doing that, you're helping so much already. Like, really, just by doing that and really connecting with that space, you're helping the world more than any amount of money you could send to the elephants. Really, I mean, for sure. And of course, it doesn't mean we should just go live in a cave in the Himalayas and just help ourselves. And that's great, because there is a point where, you know, it leads into that space of needing to do service and wanting to help other people, for sure. And, you know, I've done lots of stuff. I've been in Nepal and built schools, and, you know, just I do permaculture gardening and pay fair wages, and I have a lot of employees and family stuff and blah, 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 blah. So I do definitely do my part in that. But I think it started me with the intention of just like, it all comes from that place. You know, it all comes from that same place where we're talking about the gratitude and that connectedness. You know, I think the answers to life are all hidden in that place. And the more time we can spend there and tap into there, you know, the more often we'll get the answers to these questions, you know, without even needing to ask. Just like, you'll just be like, I need to go to the Philippines right now and do whatever. And next thing you know, you'll just be in the Philippines, like feeding an elephant or whatever. And you'll just be like, how did I get here? Like, what's going on right now? Like, am I really, like, wow, you know? And in the meantime, if we don't have the means to do that kind of stuff, we can definitely feel compassion. You know, we can definitely feel love. And I think that goes a long way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Does anyone else have a question? In the meantime, how can everyone support you, James, and follow you and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I just made this documentary. If you guys want to check it out, I think it's like $3 or something. You can rent it on iTunes. It's Chasing the Present. If you haven't seen it already. And I'm on Instagram. James.Sebastiano is my Instagram name. So if any of you guys want to reach out to me directly, I always respond to all the messages and stuff like that. I'm happy to always talk and share and whatever. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm there. And yeah.
Awesome.
And we have our websites, chasingthepresent.com. There's a lot of resources and stuff on there as well. So yeah. And thank you guys so much for having me and for being open and for sharing and spending this time together. It really means a lot to me. Thank you, Kyle, for hosting this and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so what we do now is we usually close with a prayer. I'm going to try to find it. Kristen's usually here, but I think she got booted off. So let me see. If you guys could just bear with me for 1 second.
Kyle, real quick, I'm just gonna say something if that's all good.
Yeah, please, thank you.
James, dude, so stoked about having you here, man. Seriously, I feel like every week someone comes along that just speaks to things that are so necessary right now, and something about your candor and you embody the lessons that you speak. Even though I like how you said that you don't give advice, but without actually giving advice, you do it just through your ability to hear what anybody else is having to say, and then giving the answer back in a way that I know you are so involved in the listening process. And for me, that is something I work on. So to watch somebody else do it so beautifully, it's fantastic, man. I like I said to other people who have done the deep work that you've done, it definitely you become a lighthouse for all of us people who are still in the process. And I think there always is the process, but it's just awesome to see somebody like yourself who has done the world travels and has experienced so many different things and has the ability to articulate it, and it doesn't just come off that way. It also, you can just feel it, like you embody it, and I can sense it even through a cell phone screen. So yeah, man, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ray. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. It would be cool if we were in person, huh? This Zoom thing.
I know.
Dude, yeah.
It's cool. It's working, but it's like
I'm a little over it too.
Being in person. Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I'm over it. I need high five. I need high fives and hugs and stuff, man. That's the type of person I am.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right, so we dedicate the merit of this meeting to all of those awakening at this precious time. May our efforts to better ourselves help shift the planetary consciousness from fear into love. May this energy ripple out into the world and awaken those with closed hearts, illuminate closed minds, and inspire all to live with the presence of compassion and generosity. Thank you so much, James, for your time. Thank you, everyone who came on today. I love you all, and I hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you,
guys.
everyone.
Love you all too. Thank you so much.
Peace out, fam. Later.
Have a great day.